Namaste, Dhanavad Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master on Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 9, Text 57. Mishtachat Bhararatyata Margam Chandana Charchitam Lajakshatai Pushpa Phalais Tandular Bali Biryutam. All the quadrangles, lanes, and streets in the city, and the raised sitting places at the crossings, were thoroughly cleansed and sprinkled with sandalwood water, and auspicious grains such as rice and barley, and flowers, fruits, and many other auspicious presentations were scattered all over the city. 58 through 59. Dhruvaya pati drishtaya tatra tatra purashtriya siddhartakshat dhadyambu dhruva pushpa phalhanisha upajahru prayunjana vatsalyad asisha sati shrinvamstad valgugitani pravishad bhavanam pitu. Thus, as Dhruva Maharaj passed on the road from every place in the neighborhood, all the gentle household ladies assembled to see him, and out of the material affection, they offered their blessings. And out of the maternal affection, they offered their blessings, showering him with white mustard seed, barley, curd, water, newly grown grass, fruits, and flowers. In this way, Dhruva Maharaj, while hearing the pleasing songs sung by the ladies, entered the palace of his father. Text 60. Mahamani Vratamaye Satasmin Bhavanotame Lalito Nitaram Pitra Nyavasadivi Devavat. Dhruva Maharaj thereafter lived in his father's palace, which had walls bedecked with highly valuable jewels. His affectionate father took particular care of him, and he dwelled in that house just as the demigods live in their palaces in the higher planetary systems. 61. Payafina nibhasaya dantarukma parichadha asanhani maharhani yatrarokma upaskara. The bedding in the palace was as white as the foam of milk and was very soft. The bedsteads were made of ivory with embellishments of gold, and the chairs, benches, and other sitting places and furniture were made of gold. 62. Yatra svartika kudyeshu mahamara kateshu cha mani pradipa bhananti lalana ratna samyuta. The palace of the king was surrounded by walls made of marble with many engravings made of valuable jewels like sapphires, which depicted beautiful women shining jewel lamps in their hands. Purport. The description of King Uttanapad's palace depicts the state of affairs many hundred and thousands of years ago, long before Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled. Since it is described that Maharaj Dhruva ruled for 36,000 years, he must have lived in the Satya Yuga, when people lived for 100,000 years. The life durations in the four yugas are also mentioned in the Vedic literature. In the Satya Yuga, people used to live for 100,000 years. In the Treta Yuga, people lived for 10,000 years. In Dwapara Yuga, they lived for 1,000 years. And in this age of Kali, people live up to 100 years. With the progressive advance of each new yuga, the duration of human life is reduced by 90%, from 100,000 to 10,000, from 10,000 to 1,000, and from 1,000 to 100. It is said that Dhruva Maharaj was the great-grandson of Lord Brahma. This indicates that Dhruva Maharaja's time was in the Satya Yuga, in the beginning of creation. During one day of Lord Brahma, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, there are many Satya Yugas. According to the Vedic calculation, at the present moment, the 28th millennium is current. It can be calculated that Dhruva Maharaj lived many millions of years ago, but the description of the palace of Dhruva's father is so glorious that we cannot accept that advanced human civilization did not exist even 40 or 50,000 years ago. There were walls like those in the palace of Maharaj Uttanapad, even very recently during the Mughal period. Anyone who has seen the Red Fort in Delhi must have marked that the walls are made of marble and were once decorated with jewels. During the British period, all these jewels were taken away and dispatched to the British Museum. The conception of worldly opulence was formerly based mainly on natural resources such as jewels, marble, silk, ivory, gold, and silver. The advancement of economic development was not based on big motor cars. Advancement of human civilization depends not on industrial enterprises, but on possession of natural wealth and natural food, which is all supplied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that we may save time for self-realization and success in the human form of body. Dandavat Pranam Krishna Prabhu.
Dandavat Prabhuji.
Another aspect of this verse is that Dhruva Maharaj's father, Uttanapad, would be very soon to give up attachment for his palaces and would go to the forest for self-realization. From the description of Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, we can make a very thorough comparative study of the modern civilization and the civilization of mankind in the other millenniums, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga. Text 63. Udhyanani cha ramyani vichitrar amharadramai kujat vihanga mitunar gaihanmata madhuvratai. The king's residence was surrounded by gardens wherein there were varieties of trees brought from the heavenly planets. In those trees there were pairs of sweetly singing birds and almost mad bumblebees, which made a very relishable buzzing sound. Purport. In this verse, the word Amara Drumai, with trees brought from heavenly planets, is very significant. The heavenly planets are known as Amara Loka, the planets where death is very much delayed, because the people there live for 10,000 years according to the calculations of the demigods, in which our 6 months are equal to 1 day. The demigods live in the heavenly planets for months, years, and 10,000 years, according to demigod time, and then again, after the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they fall down to this earth. These are the statements that can be collected from Vedic literature. As people there live for 10,000 years, so also do the trees, of course, here on this earth. As the people there live for 10,000 years, so also do the trees. Of course, here on this earth, there are many trees which live for 10,000 years, so what to speak of the trees on the heavenly planets? They must live for more than many 10,000s of years, and sometimes, as practiced even now, some valuable trees are taken from one place to another. It is elsewhere stated that when Lord Krishna went to the heavenly planets with his wife Satyabhama, he took a parijata flower tree from heaven and brought it to the earth. There was a fight between Krishna and the demigods due to the parijata trees being taken from heaven to this planet. The parijata was planted in the palace of Lord Krishna, which was occupied by Queen Satyabhama. The flower and fruit trees from the heavenly planets are superior, for they are very pleasant and tasteful. And it appears that in the palace of Maharaj Uttanapad there were many varieties of such trees. Text 64. Vapyo Vaidhurya Sopana Padmot Palakumudvati Hamsakaranda Bakular Justas Chakraha Sarsahi Justas Chakrava Sarasai. Okay. There were emerald staircases which led to lakes full of variously colored lotus flowers and lilies and swans, Kan- uh, Karanadavas, Karandavas, Karanadavas, Chakravakas, cranes, and similar other valuable birds were also visible in those lakes. Purport. It appears that not only was the palace surrounded by compounds and gardens with varieties of trees, but there were small man-made lakes also. Were man-made lakes also, where the water was full of many colored lotus flowers and lilies, and to get down to the lakes there were staircases made of valuable jewels such as emeralds. By the beautifully positioned garden houses there were many luxuriant birds such as swans, chakravakas, karanadavas, and cranes. These birds generally do not live in filthy places like crows do. The atmosphere of the city was very healthy and beautiful. It can simply be imagined from its description. 65. Uthana paro rajarsi prabhavam tanayasyatam shrutpadrishtpad abhutanam prapade vishmayam param. The saintly King Uttanapad, hearing of the glorious deeds of Dhruva Maharaj and personally seeing also how influential and great he was, felt very satisfied, for Dhruva's activities were wonderful to the supreme degree. Purport. When Dhruva Maharaj was in the forest executing his austerities, his father Uttanapad heard everything about his very wonderful activities. Although Dhruva Maharaj was the son of a king and was only 5 years old, he went to the forest and executed devotional service under strict austerity. Therefore, his acts were all wonderful, and when he came back home, naturally, because of his spiritual qualifications, he became very popular amongst the citizens. He must have performed many wonderful activities by the grace of the Lord. No one is more satisfied no one is more satisfied than the father of a person who is credited with glorious activities. Maharaj Uttanapad was not an ordinary king. He was a Rajarsi, a saintly king. Formerly, this earth was ruled by one saintly king only. Kings were trained to become saintly, therefore they had no other concern than the welfare of the citizens. These saintly kings were properly trained, and as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita also, the science of God, or the yoga system of devotional service, known as Bhagavad Gita, was spoken to the saintly king of the sun planet, and gradually it descended through the Kshatriya kings who were generated from the sun and the moon. If the head of the government is saintly, certainly the citizens become saintly, and they are very happy because both their spiritual and physical needs and hankerings are satisfied. Text 66. Vikshodhavaya samtam cha prakritinam cha samatam anurakta prajam raja Dhruvam chakre bhuvapatim. When, after concentration, King Uttanapad saw that Dhruva Maharaj was suitably mature to take charge of the kingdom, and that his ministers were agreeable, and the citizens were also very fond of him, he enthroned Dhruva as the emperor of this planet. Purport. Although it is misconceived that formerly the monarchical government was autocratic, from the description of this verse it appears that not only was King Uttanapad a Rajarshi, but before installing his beloved son Dhruva on the throne of the empire of the world, he consulted his ministerial officers, considered the opinion of the public, and also personally examined Dhruva's character. Then the king installed him on the throne to take charge of the affairs of the world. When a Vaishnava king like Dhruva Maharaj is the head of the government of the entire world, the world is so happy that it is not possible to imagine or describe. Even now, if people would all become Krishna conscious, the democratic government of the present day would be exactly like the kingdom of heaven. If all people became Krishna conscious, they would vote for persons of the category of Dhruva Maharaj. If the post of chief executive were occupied by such a Vaishnav, all the problems of satanic government would be solved. The youthful generation of the present day is very enthusiastic in trying to overthrow the government in different parts of the world. But unless there are people who are Krishna conscious like Dhruva Maharaj, there will be no appreciable changes in government, because people who hanker to attain political position by hook or by crook cannot think of the welfare of the people. They are only busy to keep their position of prestige and monetary gain. They have very little time to think of the welfare of the citizens. Text 67. Atmanam cha prabhayasam akalaya vishampati vanam virakta pratistad vimrishan atmanogatim. After considering his advanced age and deliberating on the welfare of his spiritual self, King Uttanapad detached himself from worldly affairs and entered the forest. Purport. This is the sign of a Rajarshi. King Uttanapad was very opulent and was the emperor of the world, and these attachments were certainly very great. Modern politicians are not as great as kings like Maharaj Uttanapad, but because they get some political power for some days, they become so much attached to their positions that they never retire unless they are removed from their posts by cruel death or killed by some opposing political party. It is within our experience that the politicians in India do not quit their positions until death. This was not the practice in olden days, as it is evident from the behavior of King Uttanapad. Immediately after installing his worthy son Dhruva Maharaj on the throne, he left his home and palace. There are hundreds and thousands of instances like this, in which kings in their mature age would give up their kingdoms and go to the forest to practice austerity. Practice of austerity is the main business of human life. As Maharaj Dhruva practiced austerity in his early age, his father, Maharaj Uttanapad, in his old age also practiced austerity in the forest. In modern days, however, it is not possible to give up one's home and go to the forest to practice austerity. But if people of all ages would take shelter of the Krishna consciousness movement and practice the simple austerities of no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating, and chant the Hare Krishna mantra regularly, 16 rounds, by this practical method, it would be a very easy task to get salvation from this material world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of 4th Canto, 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home. And thus ends our reading for today. We will continue from chapter 10, Dhruva Maharaj's fight with the Yakshas, on Monday. Were there any comments or questions from the assembled devotees? Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Guru Dev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Nishangapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gangamai Yamunamai Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund Radhakund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yajna Ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yajna Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jai Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Itai Ghora Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol, Jai Sripad Krishna Prabhu Ki Jai.
Jai Sripad Krishna Keshava Prabhu Ki Jai. Dandavat Pranam Prabhu.
Dandavat Prabhu. Take care.